Thank you very much. I'll introduce myself a little bit more in a second. I have a slide dedicated to it. We won't dwell on it too much. Eric, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
For sure. Thank you, Tom. Yes, I am Eric Casagrande. I work in Semrush for 5 years already. I was leading marketing activities for Brazil, and now I'm living in Barcelona, near to my colleague Aga, and working in academy team focusing on product education. So I hope to add a little bit of insights on top of Tom, so we can understand a little bit more about Semrush. So feel free to send any question related to the platform, and I hope to help you. Soon I will share some insights as well. Thank you, Tom.
Wonderful. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, very excited to share what we've got today. Eric will be jumping into, share how to use SEMrush with some of the workflows that I outline in the session. So just want to, I can see Eric and Aga on the side of my screen. Can you see my screen okay, both? Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Terrific. All right, let's go into slideshow mode. So this is what we're going to talk about today. We're looking at SEO workflows in an AI context, how we can use AI to kind of future-proof our organic growth success, both at a foundational level, and I'm going to share a few tactics that we use in our agency today. There's 3 building blocks we're going to cover. First of all, foundational AI workflow principles. We want to essentially look at how to use AI in our workflows, while some kind of cultural things that we need to lay down first. Effective AI SEO workflows, ones that actually work, things that we've tried and used on a day-to-day basis, from content briefs to technical SEO and more. And then how do we add everything that we talked about into the context of automation, using automation tools and no code and whatnot. So just a quick rundown of who I am. I'm the founder and CEO of Grizzle. We're an organic content marketing agency that helps a lot of enterprise level and scale up SaaS companies, from Pipedrive to Thai Bank here in the UK, and even Semrush once upon a time. And essentially, we're a team of creators, channel specialists, and our goal is to help our clients scale up their content and SEO programs. That's it in a nutshell. So the first stage is understanding SEO AI, lots of letters, lots of acronyms, foundations, both at a cultural level and just kind of understanding how to, lay the groundwork to bring in these workflows. And the one thing that we found that works really well at Grizzle is actually fostering a culture of shared wisdom. Right now, everything kind of operates in a silo, right? We have this workflow and we have an idea to kind of improve upon it. And then we go in and we start testing out prompts with ChatGPT, and then by accident, we kind of talk about it, and then it's just kind of hidden, gate kept through accident. And so a great way to kind of counter this is by encourage experimentation and discourse, right? Encourage people to get their hands dirty into all things AI. We have an AI experiments channel, as you can see on the right hand side. Here is an example of one of Grizzle's team members sharing something that they found when it comes to diving into creating content outlines and using Gemini, and what they found, limitations and whatnot. These are the types of things we want to encourage. What helps is assigning an AI champion or a series of AI champions. And if you're leading the charge, a marketing team, or if you're a founder, this includes you, to act as positive influences across the company, across your organization. For this is myself and my colleague Graham. And as a result, it becomes contagious. It becomes a natural part of the culture. And then, as I mentioned a second ago, prompts and whatnot, they can get lost. And yeah, it's very hard to take a new skill set that we've learned and share it. And of course, third-party training is important, especially, when it comes to understanding the broader use cases of AI. But what we found works really well is creating this AI cookbook, right? New prompts, workflows, and processes, get people to share them in a database and allow people to iterate upon them. And this way, we're kind of opening up our new skill sets. We're showing people and teaching everybody else how to use this technology to improve upon our skills, our arts and crafts, right? As writers, as marketers, as SEO specialists, and essentially build upon those. One other thing that we've noticed, and this is a little bit boring, but it is important, is no matter what size you are as a company, get an AI policy in place. The sooner the better, and your phone can be later, because you need to get real clear on what you want to encourage, where you should tread lightly, and what you won't tolerate. And for us, that's things like research and data analysis, technical SEO tasks. If you want to tread lightly, things like research, right? AI still hallucinates a little bit. And so you want to verify things. And the things that we won't tolerate, at least right now, is writing an entire draft from end to end. Yes, it's good for unblocking writer's block and maybe even using it as a writing sparring partner, for lack of a better word. But we find that it's not quite there yet when writing a draft from end to end. But you do want to focus on the encouragement portion, right? Document the policy, don't dwell on it, celebrate people who get involved and start experimenting with things as they do. And then the third and final thing is building a second brain. Call it what you want, a database, a repository of company knowledge. And it's one of the biggest unlocks to scaling your AI workflows, especially if you're an agency. We found, working with numerous clients, having a second brain that stores product data, customer and SME interviews, messaging frameworks, buyer persona documentation, and much more is a great way to just create a layer that acts as a database that we can then use for all sorts of research tasks. At the project level, what we've done here is keep instructions really, really simple. This is a second brain we've created for a client, hence some of the redacted information. And then get real granular with prompting at the conversation layer. So the way that we've done this is we have broad instructions, a repository of information, which includes lots of transcripts from various interviews. And then each conversation is dedicated to a project. And in this example here, we were writing, interestingly, a case study for our client. And so we use this conversation to verify a bunch of data and all of that good stuff. So before I get into the tactical side of things, I just wanted to briefly touch on GEO, Generative Engine Optimization, or LLMO, AIO, whatever you want to call it. Because right now, LLMs are opening up new traffic opportunities. While we're seeing traffic is declining across a lot of queries on Google, traffic is actually growing, referral traffic that is from various LLMs. And one thing we've noticed is this is happening because queries are super specific and contextual. I've given an example on the right-hand side here, acting as a VP of marketing, mass payments, and finance automation platform. And I'm looking to enter UK and EU markets and looking for a content partner to help us with that. Now, if I was to put that in Google, I would probably just get a generic list of top UK-based content marketing agencies. Because it's contextual, we come up a lot of other UK-based brands or agencies who tailor and cater to fintech brands appear as well. Like I just mentioned, steps are super generic, nuances are tailored. And it means that we're incentivized to create more granular and specific content around specific topics, which is where some of these customer interviews, which we'll be covering in a second, is going to come into play. More traffic to the homepage and non-SEO content as a result is what we're seeing. And here's a couple of interesting stats we've seen from a client over the last 30 days. Homepage traffic seems to be on the rise, as does traffic to what we call non-SEO content. So the SEO content game is changing, I think. SEO, I think Rand Fishkin recently said, search everywhere optimization, right? I think this is a very good outlook. So something to bear in mind as we step into this new world. So let's get into the actual tactical side of things. And I've got 5, let's call them recipes, things, jobs to be done, whatever you want to call it, that can be enhanced and automated and sped up with AI and, of course, Semrush. And the first one is one that a lot of marketers scoff at and sigh at, but is so critical to the content creation and the SEO process, and that's audience research and customer development, i.e. understanding what our audiences are talking about, what questions they're asking on sales calls, what are their priorities, right? Things that we might not necessarily find by doing a cursory high-level set of research. And we can do this by creating a customer insight repository in the form of a GPT or a Claude project, and just load it up with call transcripts and other materials from sales, customer success, marketing interviews when we actually get a chance to interview our customers, right? And use it to identify topics around their pain points, their goals, and their jobs to be done. I'm trying to overcome this problem, and the way that I'm doing it is by hiring this set of people, building out these processes, investing in this technology, whatever it might be. Once we have that information, we can find out what patterns emerge. And I just touched upon this. We can create projects for this purpose. We can share with the rest of our teams and essentially govern them. This gives us a tremendous resource to really understand what are our customers talking about. How can we help them and give them content outside of traditional keyword research tools? But more importantly, use this to enhance keyword research as well, which we'll cover. So a couple of potential prompts that you can give to LLMs and models is upload a bunch of customer interview transcripts based around perhaps a particular buyer segment and ask it to identify common pain points, goals, and jobs to be done. Add some context, and then obviously use follow-up prompts to get it to verify its own information. Sometimes one set of customers will frame a problem one way, and another set of customers will frame that same problem a different way, and you just want to kind of lead it and ensure that it's looking for all connections between various things. You can ask it to dive deeper into a problem, right? So you've given me a list of problems. This one is interesting. Why is it important? What are our customers hoping to achieve by solving this problem? And what happens if they don't succeed? What happens if they don't manage to solve this problem? And then, like I just said, help you map pain points to keyword data attached to spreadsheets, your keyword data, your topical priorities for a month, quarter, year, whatever it might be, and look for ways that you can create more original content, fulfill information gain, and generally make content more original with the customer insights that you've developed, right? This helps you create way better content than what can be found on SERPs for a given topic. The second one is keyword analysis and clustering, right? As SEOs, we deal with a tremendous amount of data on a day-to-day basis, from technical SEO audits all the way to keyword research. And so how do we take our keyword research data and use these LLM models to kind of wrangle that data and help us do our jobs better? And it all kind of starts by using Semrush's keyword overview. Collect this data from customer research and competitive gap analysis. First of all, plug this into the keyword overview and keyword magic tool and see what it can find and supplement your existing keyword data as we've done here. And before I get into the next step, I'm actually going to hand it over to Eric, who's going to show us exactly how we can use this tool in order to fulfill some of these things.
Nice. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everyone. Just to be sure you are seeing my screen as well. Okay, nice. All good. So yeah, actually, it's with Semrush that you can do all those steps, and starting, of course, with the keyword overview. You can find this tool. It's one of our main tools in the SEO toolkit, keyword overview. And you basically type your keyword. Let's say that you are working with good running shoes, just to use the same example that Tom had in his slide. And here you can see a lot of information about this keyword. And one thing that Tom just mentioned is about the intent. Addressing information intent, it's very useful when we are trying to target and rank for LMMs, because we know that those LMMs are answering much more the information intent. So once you have all this information about your keyword, you can actually go to Keyword Magic Tool, which is the other tool that Tom just mentioned, but you can also access it from here. And you're going to see a lot of data related to that specific keyword and other ideas, other ways to phrase that same keyword. And you can see different ways to cover that topic, in this case with information intent. What are good running shoes? Are Brooks good running shoes? So you can understand a little bit more and starting to get more information about those keywords. You can see basically two main metrics that you need to analyze is the volume of search as an average for on monthly basis, and the keyword difficult, which means how difficult it is to rank for that specific keyword on Google search and of course in general search. So as lower is this number, easier it will be for you to rank for that keyword. But actually, when we are looking to clusters, our content based on a keyword, there's a very nice way to do it with Semrush, starting from the keyword overview. So let's say that we keep working with good running shoes. And I will add, let's say, let's pretend that I am a business like this one, uh, Roadrunners Sport. I will add here my domain, and this tool will help me to understand the potential of ranking for that keyword based on my domain. Of course, I took a domain that it's related to sports, so the topical authority of that domain related to this keyword is very high, but I still have potential to growth. And based on this information related to this domain, I can go directly to keyword strategy and cluster ideas of content based on this topic. I have the tool will run this analysis for save some time. I have already done it, and it will look like this. So I have a lot of ideas actually for best running shoes that it's clustered, that are clustered, and I can choose one of them to move forward with this content. So let's say that I like to produce and create a content based on marathon shoes. So I select this content and I can move to brief content creation or export all this list with 30 keywords as a CSV, and I will have all the information organized to easily work in any spreadsheet. Tom, I think that right now it's in your hands how to use this with other tools and be faster with AI assistance.
Terrific. Thank you, Eric. There we go. Let me share my screen again. So yeah, we have our keyword data now as demonstrated by Eric there. The next question is, how do we use this to inform our content strategy? As SEOs, it's important that we're creating a piece of content that covers search intent, first of all, but also sometimes we find that a group of keywords serve the same intent, i.e. the results pages offer the same type of content, and it would be wasteful and it would create cannibalization if we create a piece of content for various keywords. And so what we want to do is cluster these together and really understand where in the buyer's funnel that these searches kind of sit in our first column. So it obviously starts with a prompt. Again, you can create projects in GPT or Claude in order to do this. Give it our data and basically say that we want to do a certain number of things. We want to classify keywords by search intent. So have a look, understand, are people looking for information? Are they just looking to learn something like how to start running? Or are they looking to actually buy a set of shoes? And then group the keywords together into clusters where these theme and sub coverage overlaps. And then basically what we can do here is group these keywords into the same topic, create one piece of content, and extend our surface area, generate more search traffic from a single piece of content, while making sure that we serve that search intent, essentially. So you take the keyword data that Eric just shared with us, and it's all about instructing ChatGPT and the robots how to wrangle that. In a very similar manner, actually wrangling technical data and finding on-page content optimizations is a great thing to do with this. So a couple of ways that we do this at Grizzle is schema generation, so auto-generating data markups for a particular piece of content, creating FAQs, so identifying FAQs based on the search results and what else people are searching for, metadata optimization, so actually drafting and optimizing page titles and meta descriptions. And at risk of undermining my own advice earlier, saying that we don't use it to write content, there are exceptions. Small micro pieces of content like page titles and meta descriptions, I think, are absolutely okay as long as there's human oversight. And the same goes with image alt tags. And there's an example of this on the right-hand side where we had a client that had over 600 images that were missing alt tags. Are we going to do that manually? Absolutely not. But we can get the robots to do it, and we can use human oversight to dive in and, essentially understand how we can optimize our image tags. So I'm going to hand it over to Eric in a second. But one example of how we do this is using Semrush's site audit to find poorly optimized metadata. So here we've got an example where there's no meta descriptions, but imagine if there were 100 or so. Again, are we going to write that manually? In the old world, maybe we would have, but now with the right prompting, the right information and context, we can get LLMs to do this for us. So we organize this data, we set guidelines in our prompts, things like character limits, formats, right? Do we want our page titles to be editorial or super keyword heavy, etc.? And then take what it generates and heavily edit the data to ensure accuracy and polish. There's a dozen other applications to this, and I know Eric is the master here. So once again, going to pass it over to you, Eric.
Okay, amazing. Thank you, Tom. Let's just me share my screen again here. And there we go. This is one. Here we go. So how you're gonna discover the page and the content or the meta issues that you have that you need to optimize, just as Tom shared? Actually, you can use site audit and it will help you to find those issues, those problems. You'll find these tools. It's actually one of our main tools, always in the SEO session, site audit. You create a project, you add your domain, and you start to audit your project, your domain. So in overview, you'll find a lot of information. Later, Tom will mention about internal links, so you have a report specific for some of those thematic reports, some of those points. But here in issues, you can see all the main errors, warnings, or notice that you need to address and fix it. And what I actually like here in Semrush, and I am not a technical SEO. I understand a lot about content. I have a more or less understand about technical, but here I can easily understand why this is important and how to fix it. So I can easily work with a expert who is a technical SEO and be sure that the content and the page on the technical side will be improved by this technical expert. So here I can see that internal images are broken, some pages are with problems with internal links, and also let's see if we have some issues related to meta tags. Yes, we do have meta tag pages that don't have meta descriptions, problems with title tags, out image attributes that Tom just mentioned. So I can find the page, exactly the image that I need to fix, and then work, as Tom suggested, we're using AI assistant to easily write those texts, and then I will implement in my CSM. So giving the word back to you, Tom.
Nice one, Eric. Thank you very much for adding some more context there. I even learned a couple of things. So let's jump back in here. We've got a couple more. I find that 80% of the SEO game is all around producing, editing, refreshing great content. And every single piece of content starts with a good brief and a good outline. Now, human research, human oversight is still needed, but again, LLMs can help us do some of that heavy lifting. I'm going to talk about how we approach briefs here at Grizzle. I know a lot of other agencies and SEOs have, different ways of kind of attributing things I'm going to talk about here, but a big one is a competitive analysis, right? We want to analyze the top performing articles or pages, landing pages, product pages, whatever it might be in the SERPs, and identify gaps among them. And we can do this as a standalone exercise, i.e. get the robot to look at the top 5 competing pages, look at what they all have in common and what they all fall short on. So it could be lack of examples, lack of actionable advice. People are looking for templates according to what I can see, but no one's offering any free downloadable templates, that kind of thing. But we can also enhance that with our own customer research around a particular topic. Again, going back to the first tactic I talked about earlier, audience research and customer development, taking those interview transcripts and adding context to the competitive analysis. On the right-hand side here, you can see I've got an example. We like to keep things short and succinct. It's just looking at, hey, this is what they all have in common. This is where the strengths are. And then the angle basically allows us to determine exactly what our content is going to do differently, better, what's going to make it unique. And we often use Perplexity to identify additional gaps and fulfill information gain. Perplexity kind of does a great job of looking at publicly available data in the form of communities and, other discussions around very granular questions. And then we kind of take that and enhance our angles, as it were. This then goes into a content outline, and you can create AI generated outlines and use workflows to build them out piece by piece. But I would recommend that you start very high level, right? What are the H2s that are kind of table stakes in order to fulfill search intent and basically answer people's queries, and then dive into H3s and the specific points below them. In other words, we're prompting the robot based on our research, based on the competitive landscape, on the SERPs. What are the core H2s we need to kind of cover? We time those up, then we dig into the H3s and then specific points below them. And then based on, again, customer research, you tweak, add, remove, and improve upon what's already there in order to make it even better. Once again, there's a very useful Semrush feature, the SEO brief tool, that you can use to kind of go through the wizard, enter your keywords, competitor content, etc. And here's an example here. But I do believe that, once again, Eric is going to step in and show you exactly how to do this.
Yes, thank you, Tom. So, one step back, also using on-page SEO checker, it's one of the tools that you can get a lot of ideas on how to improve your content. So here, for instance, you can audit on content perspective and find content ideas and check those content ideas for your specific domain. And you can actually see what would be the keywords, the ideas that you can address and improve your content with this tool. And actually it ranks the top 10 ideas that would be better for your domain. But talking about how to brief a content, I think you remember when we started in the first tip that Tom was sharing, that we build a cluster based on a keyword. So I was sharing this before and I like it. Let's say marathon shoes would be this one. And I can easily click here and move to create a brief content, use brief content shake AI. And the tool will load and create this content, this briefing, just as Tom has shared. It might take a while because the tool is looking for information. But when Tom mentioned that you need to analyze your top competitors related to that topic, the tool do it by itself and very quickly. So let's say that I would like to add to that brief content these 3 competitors. And so I move forward just a second because it's behind my other screen. And then I keep moving forward based on the competitors and how many words they have in their content. The tool already suggested a word count up for this article, some title suggestions, and move on. And then we can move forward with that. Secondary keywords. And of course, you can understand if those keywords are the best one for you. Let's say my content, it's about marathon. So probably best running shoes for a 10K race is not the perfect one. So it's always needed a human eye on top of that. But things are much easier with AI and with this kind of intelligence. So I will clean up or add different keywords here and move forward with my content briefing. Then I have the structure. The tool will create it for me. Just a second. And there we go. Not yet. But it will do it in a few seconds. But we have it. I have it done here already with all the details. So we have the title for marathon shoes, the secondary keywords, the structure, with the H2, H3. So we have all the content structure as a content briefing. And from here, of course, I can start writing or I can share it with other writers or even copy and add to another tool that I prefer to write this content. So like coming back here, you can see that the tool have created all the structure and I move forward looking for meta info and meta description as well. There we go. I can add more details and then I send it to finish. and I have this more or less the same thing that I just shared, and I can start writing the article, which is the previous page, or share that briefing with other writers, which will be this one. So you have everything here for you too. Very easy. Things are much easier with AI. And what is very important, Semrush has a big database regarding keywords. It's the best and the biggest for the market. So everything that you are doing with Semrush, with the intelligence of Semrush, you are doing with the SEO perspective from the very beginning, which makes things much easier. And you can be sure that your results later on the road will be much better because you are always taking SEO knowledge in this content creation process. So giving the word back to you, Tom.
Lovely. Thank you, Eric. We do have time for Q&A at the end, by the way, but I've noticed a few have come in and I've been taking note of them, but there was a couple related to what we just went through. One from Steph Cummings, who asked, I've always heard that each page should only be optimized for only 3 or so keywords. Is that no longer true? It's less that we're optimizing a page or piece of content for a specific piece of content, and it's more understanding what the search opportunity is. So there might be 20 secondary keywords, which are all kind of the same, way of saying a certain thing. They're all, just different ways that people search for things. For example, if I'm trying to think of an example here. Best running shoes versus best sprinting shoes, right? Now you might get the same result on the page, which might be best running shoes. And if we were to optimize that for both keywords, we're going to confuse the reader. If we switch between best running shoes, best sprinting shoes, it's, what are we actually talking about? What Google does really well is understanding the semantic relevance between two different terms. And so it's a matter of understanding, hey, are we actually capturing the entire search opportunity here? It's a good way of prioritizing as well. So it's not a matter of optimizing for every single secondary keyword, i.e. getting all of those secondary keywords in. Sometimes it's a matter of understanding and prioritizing based on search volume, commercial intent, and things like that. Eric, I'll be curious to hear if you have any thoughts on that one as well.
Yes, thank you, Tom. Yes, regarding regarding the keywords, regarding the intentional, it's very important that, okay, yes, not that much of secondary keywords. I see that we have some comments related to that also. So, but it's important to understand that each content doesn't rank for only 1 or 2 keywords. You need to rephrase how you are saying those topics in a way that you have a comprehensive content regarding that topic. So it's important to cover different ways on how the user will search, and also to give more information for the search engines on how to track and read your content in a way that it can be featured in the LLM's answers as well. Tom, just 1 second. I see that we have a question related to the previous topic on how to show an automate from Steve. Are you going to show how to automate and get missing meta titles and alt text as we move forward in this process? I will share very quickly again the Semrush screen with the site audit. Steve, once you fix your errors or warnings in Semrush after the audit, and you can program an audit every week, so you're gonna see that your errors are getting lower, getting less errors and less warnings, and you can always check if they were corrected. So you can see that you don't have the same problems in the next audit. So you can see that you are moving on and improving your site health score with the change and the optimization that you are doing. So you can be sure that the changes are done and you are moving on. With that, Tom.
Terrific. I've written down everyone's questions, so we'll press on, and then I'll aim to answer them all towards the end with you, Eric. Let me share again. Okay. So we just walked through the brief generator, the 5th and final one, and it's one that we're still ironing out, but we have found that we can speed up the process, is internal linking. And the best way to do this is starting off with a database of regularly updated pages. And by that, I don't mean pages that are regularly updated, but as new pages are published, you have a sitemap, you have a database of pages. The primary keyword is there, which helps with anchor text and whatnot. And it's a source that GPT, whatever tool that you decide to use, can then help with, essentially. You give your LLMs a draft for a page, plus the sitemaps / page database. Give it anchor guidelines. So we've found that different clients have different preferences. Some people prefer to use the exact term as the anchor text, so best running shoes. Others prefer it, and this is our preference as well, for anchor text to have UI and UX in mind, i.e. our thumbs are big. Why don't we hyperlink a large amount of text that's relevant to the action or the content on the other side? Give the LLM these anchor text guidelines, and then make sure you verify. LLMs still tend to hallucinate and make up pages that don't actually exist. We'll talk about verification layers in a second when we talk about building out automation workflows, but there's a couple of patterns you probably noticed here, right? This notion of a second brain or a database, a source that the robots, the LLMs, these chatbots can kind of go into, grab the data, wrangle it to our will, and then verification, whether either through human intervention or using another model. So that's at a very tactical layer. There's dozens of ways that we can use these AI models to automate all of our tasks, all of the things that we do on a day-to-day basis as marketers and SEOs. But these are kind of the menial ones, the things that, if we take them off our plate, frees us up to do more creative and strategic work. The next thing we want to do is look at how do we actually automate these systems and add LLM layers on top of them. So we're going to talk about automation and layering here. So what I'm going to breeze through just now is, first of all, the importance of process mapping and identifying areas for enhancement, right? That's step one. Using no code and no code automation as the foundation for building out these automations. Adding on our LLM model layers, an additional verification layer, and then, of course, beyond that is human intervention. So I'm going to breeze through this. No one wants to do here a 5-minute roundabout process mapping, but it is important because we want to understand exactly what steps go into our SEO and content processes. We want to get real granular at a subtask level, right? You conduct a technical SEO audit. What does that involve, right? Hitting run in Semrush, scheduling it to run on a weekly basis, exporting that data, looking at that data and prioritizing tasks. What are all of the steps that we need to do, from copying and pasting things into a spreadsheet and presenting them to a client, that kind of thing. We want to understand exactly what all these menial steps are. What is taken care of by tools versus what is done manually. Really want to understand all of these steps, because once we have them mapped out, we can effectively automate. And then what we want to do is use no-code tools and automation to act as our foundation, right? So we use Zapier here at Grizzle, and basically basic automation like this is getting tools to talk to each other, right? Something triggers, for example, a form is submitted, a series of actions happens. Tools like Zapier, Make, and N8N are platforms that can bring these different tools together without us having to program APIs. So a really basic example of an automation that we can build with no-code tools is, first, format the text, create the brief docs in Google Docs, get keyword data from Semrush, right? Okay, this is the wrong slide. Ignore that. On top of that, we've got LLM enhancement layers, right? So once we have our baseline automation foundation layers down, so downloading data from Semrush, putting it into a spreadsheet, there's a lot of things that we do as humans that we can probably get LLMs to create. So through this, through our initial research, look for tasks that require manual research. So, going through the SERPs, etc., analyzing data, and then test different prompts in these LLMs to refine and understand how models perform. What you're going to find is, no matter how you rephrase it, the first prompt will give you something close to 60%, but it's where the follow-up prompts come in that allow you to refine these things. You want to understand what each of these things are. We'll talk about this in a second. But like, what is the first prompt, the first step that gets you 60, 70% of the way there? and then create sub-processes like the one I've got on the right, and weave these into your existing automation layers that we just talked about. So I'm from a programming background, and there's this notion, this principle called refactoring, right? We'll write a bunch of code. It will be a file that is incredibly long, and what we'll find is that we can actually take certain functions and put them in separate files to keep code nice and clean. In tools like Zapier, you can create separate zaps that can get called upon. So in the example to the right, there's a sub-zap that creates that competitive analysis for our content brief that we talked about earlier. So it starts by getting the top performing SERP pages, and then based on this, writing a competitive analysis. And then we'll talk about this step here because it condenses it for us. Okay. So the first LLM layer is taking that manual work and just kind of doing it for us. And here's another kind of example of that as well, right? Where we're using Perplexity to conduct some research. We're writing an article on the term sales pipeline, do some research for me. It's important to switch between LLMs and models based on their unique strengths. Perplexity is great for research, not so good at data analysis, as I've just mentioned. And then you take this output, create 2 3 additional steps through a model that can take what's given and make it better. Of course, you want to verify and fact check or flag potential inaccuracies, and then reformat for our own standard brief template, as it were. Then comes the verification layer. So as I mentioned earlier, we can create one prompt that gets us 60% of the way there, but we have to kind of reprompt it over and over. And this is where the additional steps in tools like Zapier can allow us to just do that automatically. So we've got a step here called condense the competitive analysis, because no matter how many different ways we word it, ChatGPT or Perplexity will always give us a competitive analysis that's wordy and superfluous. And because at Grizzle, we pride ourselves on succinctness and just getting to the point, we want to make sure that when we present something to a client, it's already most of the way there without having to edit it. So these verification layers, they can polish and clean things up, or they can fact check for you. So checking its own biases and hallucinations. Like I just mentioned, if there are certain instructions like make sure this is short and succinct, make sure it's no longer than 250 words, those sorts of things are ignored. So you can add these additional layers for non-negotiable. And like I just said, here's an example on the right-hand side for succinctness, which is relatively important for us. So I know we just got into the technical side of things there, but essentially what we're looking at is, hey, what are we doing on a day-to-day basis that could be automated? How do we use no-code and automation tools that are already in market to build out the baseline workflows for these things? Add an LLM layer on top, taking out some of these human elements, enhancing them, taking them off our human's plate, if you know what I mean, and then that extra verification layer. Before I close things out and move to Q&A, just wanted to mention a couple of additional tools. Semrush, we barely scraped the surface on their AI tools. And actually, when I was putting together this presentation, I found a bunch like the kind of AI mention tracker that I've screenshot here on the right. It's one that I've just discovered, so well worth exploring. N8N, so I briefly mentioned this a second ago, but it takes Zapier and makes it's a little bit more complex, a little bit more enterprise level. Originally built for IT folk, but actually has a lot of powerful tools for us marketers. And then AirOps. So this is a newcomer in the space. They are creating this kind of content engineering platform, which does a lot of the things that we've talked about almost for you to an extent, and allows you to build out workflows yourself as well. So thank you for listening to me rabbit on.